Farmers of Reddit, what did your animals do that made you go how the F asterisk asterisk K did you do that? Worked at a stable with 53 horses and 1 donkey. One morning, while feeding, I came across an empty stall that hadn't been empty at 11 PM the night before. This stall belonged to a huge Frisian ex-perker and stallion. The mystery was, the stall door was completely closed and secure, and I was alone, so no one else would have taken him. How did this giant horse teleport out of his stall? Well, we had small feed windows that some of the horses had learned to open with their mouths. This wasn't a big deal as we'd just latch them shut with clips. The openings were big enough for them to stick their heads out, but not really their bodies lol. His was open. So he actually somehow squeezed through the feed window. Jump maybe? I have no idea to this day how it happened. But it gets better. I had left all the mares outside overnight. My heart sank when I ran to the pasture and found him chasing/breeding with all the girls, like his own harem. He had a sexy fun night. It was a rough day having to parade all the mares past his stall to see if they mated, and then calling their owners to tell them their horses needed plan B. Do horses react to their breeding mates differently than unmated counterparts? What do you mean by parading them? I guess if the mares are in heat they'll react differently. They'll show interest, they'll get rigid, like they expect to be mounted. It's hormones, and she would stand to be bred if running loose. When they aren't in heat, their body won't react this way and they'll have no problem scooching on by. If they are in heat, they likely were the previous night, and likely stood and were penetrated. If they are not in heat, they likely weren't the last night either, and didn't let the boy get anywhere close. Grew up with horses. Had this one mare who was too smart. She would shove hay/objects under her water spigot and flood the barn if you did not pay enough attention to her. She had 4 locks on her stall because she figured out how to open all of them, including a carabiner clip. On more than one occasion during the night, she would escape her stall, unlock all the other horses' stalls, and have a horse party till morning, when there's half a dozen horses in the garden eating the summer vegetables and another half dozen clip-clopping down the road, confusing motorists. Edit. Wow, did not expect all the upvotes and love. Thank you so much everybody. More backstory, she is very much still alive and kicking at age 21, but back in the day she was a show horse. She has long since retired and has had her very own field with her best horsey friend in a very sunny climate and spends 90% of her time outdoors. Fun tidbit, she may be old, but still occasionally escapes, but now it is from her field, and what does she do? She goes to the barn, finds her favorite stall, closes the door behind her, and makes all kinds of noises until she is given grain. Love that mare. And have a horse party till morning. Sounds like a nightmare. Damn you. One of my neighbors called me to let me know she had come home to find one of my young goats, like 5 months old, inside her house down the road. To this day we have no idea how the fuck that happened. No holes in either layer of fencing on my end. No other people in her home who could have brought him in there. She had no pet door and none of her doors was ajar when she got home. She did however have a few open windows on her second story, so we are thinking maybe he climbed a tree next to her house and jumped. But goats usually aren't very graceful or precise creatures, so no clue how honestly. But goats usually aren't very graceful or precise creatures. Well, domestic goats are likely descended from ancient Iranian mountain goats, so it stands to reason that the instinct and function is still there, however limited it may be by domestication. Well, I'm descended from hominids who could track a wildebeest for days until it dropped from exhaustion. In my case, however, if it doesn't lie down on a bed of rice and pour barbecue sauce on itself, I'm pretty much fucked. I'm descended from fierce Viking raiders. I think maybe I will mount a one-man expedition to raid the refrigerator. I grew up on a farm. One year we had goats that were constantly getting out of the pen, which had a 6-foot fence. My dad built it up to 10 feet, and an hour later they were out again. He puts up army netting over the top of the whole enclosure, looks out the window half an hour later, and a goat is walking along the top of the fence, like it's no big deal. I'm kinda relieved reading these goat escape stories. We just got a goat. Our first goat. She was seized by animal control after being found in poor condition and we love her. She's super sweet. We built her a house and a nice pen and everything was perfect for her to recoup and heal in. Then the escapes began. We've built up the fence multiple times and put in new mismatched posts and it now looks like a cross between a prison and the Blair Witch Project. I was starting to think we were just shitty goat parents. Now I know it's just a goat thing and I'll accept this is a life now. Edit. Since a lot of people have pointed out she needs a friend, I promise we are working on it. Right now she is under a quarantine by the state vet because she did not come into the state legally with a proper health screen. She has an appointment with our vet in about a week to be tested for TB and brucellosis, what she would have needed to come into the state. Once she clears that, we have a few friends with goats that are going to provide her with buddies. We know she's lonely because whenever she escapes she runs right to our porch to look for us. Thank you all for looking out for her. She just needs to wait a little bit longer for friends. I saw a barn cat successfully take down and kill a wild turkey. To this day, I still can't believe my own eyes. Weird barn cat story. Go. My grandpa had a barn cat named Mickey who would attack anything or anyone who got too close. My grandpa would tell us whenever we visited not to get near it. That's not a pet, it's a mousetrap. I was 6 to 7 and accidentally walked too close to it and it went full batshit throttle. Darted right at me. I had never been so scared in my life, and then my mama bear mom intercepted it and kicked that fucker like a football full of helium. We didn't see him for a couple days. Mom was worried she'd actually killed him, but luckily, he shows back up, mean as ever. Except to my mom. He would walk right up to her and morph into the sweetest little bastard you've ever met. When we'd have fires outside each night, he'd stroll in, hiss at everyone, then lay down on my mum's lap. Taking a hike. He followed her. Drive to the market? Guess who would be waiting in the dirt driveway? We found her eating on the hammock one afternoon, with Mickey right on top of her. Fast asleep. Mickey died before our next visit. But my grandpa loved telling that story. The noble savage finally made a friend. Edit. Added some more or he could respect someone as aggressive and violent as himself. He probably spent those 2 days he was gone doing the feline version of, holy shit, she honored me. Yeah bitch, you come for the king, you best not miss, oh god I love ya oh oh oh. Full grown Nubian goat, taking about 3 over 3.5 feet tall at the shoulders, a good 150 to 170 pounds. Squeezed her bitchy fat ass through the 2x 2 foot pop door in the chicken coop. For no other reason but to see what was in there. Then proceeded to climb up the 1 foot wide, 4 feet long particle board gangplank to the raised roosts and laying boxes when I tried to get the out of the coop through the man door. I still have no idea how a dinky ramp we built from scrap for chickens held her fat ass. She then taught her shorter but fatter daughter how to do it. This was done multiple times until fencing was altered so they couldn't get to the coop at all. They also get poop into places with scary accuracy. Just anything in the goat barn at risk if getting poop on or in it. I love the frustration dripping from your post. Makes me wanna have goats. I needed to read this today. Thank you lol. You needed to read about fat goats escaping into a coop? Tell me there hasn't been a time where you needed to read about fat goats escaping a coop. Peep hole. Only have a small hobby farm, not a farmer, but it's always goats or cows, man. We took on a home goat to join our small mob of 5 Arapaho weathers. He needed to be introduced very slowly because Arapahos are absolute bastards about the pecking order. We locked him up in a small stall in the goat hut where the only gap was about 15 centimeters between the roof of the hut and the top of the metal gate. The next morning, the locked gate was still there and the goat was not. Found him joyfully frolicking in the paddock with the others because goats are A, contrarians and B, liquid. My favorite how the fuck moment was definitely our neighbor's cow. Old mate has been a farmer for 40 plus years and knows his shit. He raises beef cattle as a side gig and had selected a few of them for the meatworks. He hadn't had the bull in with any of the girls so none of them were in calf and calving season was done anyway. But cows are too smart by half. So one of them decided to drop a calf an hour before the truck showed up to cart everyone off to the abattoir. Having an immaculate conception baby to get out of something you don't wanna do is a pretty boss move. Needless to say, she and Junior got to stay home that day. It's funny how goats can be boneless when they want to get out of a pen, but the densest thing on the planet, when you're trying to move them somewhere they don't want to go, they somehow change the laws of gravity to have the weight of a dying star when they don't want to go somewhere you want them to. Hell, even if they wanted to do the thing you want them to, they don't now, because then it'd seem like it was your idea, and fuck you and your plans.